expect to as well.
We are back at Circuit of the Americas now for Mission King of the Baggers. It's part of Superbikes at Texas in the 6th anniversary season of the MotoAmerica Championship. And when you talk about Mission King of the Baggers here at COTA, this is not the first time this season that we've seen these big bikes out here. They were also on track in April as part of the MotoGP weekend, so a lot of experience has already been had here this season and with the bikes in this trim, and that could really change the way, Roger Hayden, things unfold this weekend when you think about riders who are already comfortable that they haven't been so far this season.
Yeah, I think for somebody like Troy, going back to the track a second time could be huge for him.
Not only Troy, but let's talk about Rocco Landers as well. Let's go ahead and go back to race number 1. This was at Mid-Ohio just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, back to Mid-Ohio, and just as we were talking about Rocco Landers as well, was having a really good weekend there at the good qualifying, but it's Troy Hurtfoss and also Kyle Wyman, the two guys that's kind of been the class of the field this year with really good starts here. You see James Rispoli trying to work his way past Tyler O'Hara down there. Look at Rocco Landers. We mentioned him right there in front of his teammate Hayden Gillum on the Vincent Hines Harley. Rocco there making a really good move down into turn 1. See Tyler O'Hara misses the chicane there, so he has to go straight. But the battle at the front was hot and heavy between Kyle Wyman and Troy Hurtfoss there, swapping positions all the way down through the infield through there with really good pass. Kyle could not make the pass stick, and then Troy's able to pull out to about a second lead, able to get a win there, and Kyle Wyman there second.
That win for Troy Hurtfoss, it was his 5th one of the season. Take a look at the championship point standings as we come into this weekend. You see Kyle Wyman leading the way. It's a 14-point deficit now between himself and Troy Hurtfoss. Hayden Gillman with that number 1 plate, 93 points back. So it's a big weekend here at Circuit of the Americas for the Harley-Davidson versus Indian battle that has been all season long. And with that, let's go ahead and go down to Michael Hill.
Well, one of the riders that we can certainly expect to feature this weekend in Mission King of the Baggers is, of course, that number 1 plate holder, Hayden Gillum. He's been fast all season, but last time out at Mid-Ohio, he took a big tumble. Unfortunately, he's been down the road this morning as well, a little bit earlier on in Superbike, but he is out on track right now as going past us. That is, I think, Troy Hurtfoss heading up into turn 1 to start this qualifying. You guys can see their big spill for Hayden Gillum last time out. Rider was okay, but I'll tell you what, Roger, these bikes, it's never nice to crash any bike, but you're not going to pick this up and get going again. These baggers, when they crash hard.
Yeah, and through there, not only a crash, but as the track goes downhill there, getting thrown off, you know, the high side like that was a really big crash. Hayden was able to get up and walk off. Unfortunately, he did hurt his hand a little bit, but, you know, it could have been a lot worse.
See him getting picked up there by his friend Jake Lewis. As we now look live here at COTA, there is the number 1 plate of Hayden Gillum back out and underway. Looking at the practice results from this morning, though, he was outside of the top 5 down there in 6th.
Yeah, and I think some of it has to do, you know, first time on track after that big crash, getting hurt, having to get some work done on that hand and then come out. And, you know, we talked about this track being really physical, that first sector. Then you come in with the injured hand, it's going to make it that much harder to get through there. But I think Hayden, I think this could be a big session for him.
Riders this weekend not only dealing with the track itself and the challenges that it offers, but you also have to consider the heat with 97-degree actual temperature right now, but that humidity being up there at 44%. The real feel is up at over 100 degrees, and these riders certainly feeling it with their feet right near the exhaust. We heard some riders talk about that earlier, that normally you don't feel it, but here today at least, the riders have had to deal with that. And if you're joining us on YouTube, this is bonus coverage from the all-day action that unfolds on MotoAmerica Live Plus. The stream will not be available all weekend long, so if you want to be able to watch all of the races and the rest of qualifying tomorrow morning in its entirety and live. Make sure you go over to MotoAmericaLivePlus.com and set up your subscription. We also have the championship round of racing coming in a couple of weeks from New Jersey Motorsports Park. So still a lot of action to unfold as you now see the number 33 of Kyle Wyman, our championship points leader, out there during this first qualifier.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned about the heat, and you think about the king of the baggers, the engines are bigger, and they're, they kind of go around their feet a little bit more. So going to be a problem to look for as we see Kyle here on screen there, backing it in off that long back straightaway. Just, man, he's always, seems like Kyle's always there in practice qualifying, always doing his work and putting in a lot of consistent laps, and no different today.
Go back to the races that happened here at Circuit of the Americas earlier this year. Troy Herfoss won the first race. Kyle Wyman was able to win the second race, and in that race he was also able to set the track record for Mission King of the Baggers. So the time that they're chasing in terms of records is a 2:14.8 that Kyle Wyman sat here earlier on. And with the temperatures being up there, Roger, and the way that it changes the track, it's a lot greasier than what it would have been earlier in the spring. How off should we expect the times, if at all?
This class, as much as they've improved since then, that was earlier in the year. I think that maybe they could get closer, maybe go quicker. It seems like every time with the king of the bagger, I think one thing, like they're not going to go quicker or they're going to be off a little bit. They prove to be even quicker.
See the number 17. This is Troy Herfoss. I just mentioned is the winner here in the first race at Circuit of the Americas. It was also his first race win in Mission King of the Baggers here in this first season of MotoAmerica competition for Troy, also competing in the Super Hooligans category as well for the full season. And one of the things that we've talked about all year is the fact that when we go every stop on the schedule, he has to learn the racetrack. Here he doesn't. He already has a race weekend under his belt.
Yeah, I think for him that could be huge, and he was doing a really good lap just then, made a mistake at turn 12. But I think coming back to a track that he shows up with on a Friday and has a little bit of a setup, and not only a setup, but going back to a track that he won at. So you get the bike dialed in to do some really good lap times. The heat, gonna have to adjust it for that for sure, but it's gonna be huge going back to a place for the second time in one season as well.
Troy Herfoss was on a good lap. He went personal best in the first sector. He went quickest overall in the second sector. No improvement on that lap time, but he is consistent. His quickest lap was a 2:15.7. That one was a 2:15.8. So he's right there in the sweet spot, as you now see James Rispoli on that number 43.
Yeah, and James had some good rides this year. I think, he's just, and he's down there right into the last corner. We've seen a couple of these from James this year, one at Mid-Ohio as well. And, he's really having trouble when he's pushing hard, when he's trying to find that extra little bit, finding it and then not crashing when he does. And, he's working really hard for it and really good rides. And, man, I think it's tough when you get in that position. And every time you start to find that extra little bit, you crash, and you can do it, but you just can't figure out what am I missing. And it's frustrating.
As we watch these replays in slow motion, we watched it happen real-time live, and you saw James Rispoli. Look how quickly he hopped up and then was able to run over to that bike.
Yeah, I mean, as a rider, you're already thinking about, this is qualifying, I need to get the bike and run over there and see if I can't pick it up. But just see the front end, with the bagger, once the front end goes and the weight, it's hard to be able to save it on your knee like we see in some other classes.
And this qualifying session not as long as it is in some of the other classes like Superbike or Super Sport, and there's only 16 and a half minutes already remaining on the clock, so not a whole lot of times for James to get it back to pit lane and see if it needs any work, or maybe just keep going. Doesn't look like he's lost a whole lot.
No, the bike didn't flip. Only thing is it slid a really long time on the asphalt, so you got to kind of make sure maybe it didn't grind the motor or something.
You mentioned he had a moment very similar to what we just saw in the last race back in Mid-Ohio. Let's take a look back at this one.
Yeah, this is the last corner there at Mid-Ohio. You see him right there behind his teammate. Look at the really weird crash right there. Not sure what happened, but this one was a big one and it slid that long. And look at the bike. took a little bit more of a hit there, but you know, just that crash was really a strange crash. The way the rear end stepped out right as he was starting to get into the corner.
But you see him still out on the racetrack, not making his way to pit lane. So for James Rispoli, once he was able to get back on, you just got to shake it off and keep on going.
And that's tough too when you have a crash one weekend and the next. Man, you're confident, you know, and that's another reason why it's really important to be able to get back out there so you can kind of rebuild that confidence if it did take a hit.
See the number 97, Rocco Landers. His first season here in Mission King of the Baggers, riding this Harley-Davidson for Vance and Hines. And over the course of the season, Rocco has 5 podiums, but he has 4 in a row. So we talk about getting comfortable at the right time, and it's really been a progression for Rocco. He's knocking on the door of getting his first win, though, in Baggers.
Yeah, and he's right there. And early on in the year, kind of struggled a little bit and really struggled to even get in the Mission Challenge a couple weekends, which is the top 6 and qualifying. And then when it came together and he started getting that momentum and he got that podium, and you would have thought he won the race. And from there, it's just been up for Rocco, and he's such a young talent. You knew he's going to figure it out, and now he's knocking on the door for a win.
He led the practice session this morning as well, so made quick work of getting up to speed here at Circuit of the Americas for Rocco Landers. You now see the number 29, Tyler O'Hara. This is the teammate of Troy Herfoss.
And this is a big weekend for the whole Indian team, and even Harley as well, for all these riders, because they're going to want, you know, Tyler needs to get up there and try to get in between Kyle and Troy and take a few points away from Kyle and help his teammate out.
So watching Tyler O'Hara, just how close he is. Look, I mean, look, dragging his knee on a bagger a couple of years ago, that would have never happened. The evolution of these bikes and the development that these teams have put in over the last couple of seasons, it's just skyrocketed this whole platform.
I mean, not only dragging the knee, but I see some photos after the weekend as Tyler there does his best lap, moves into second. They're about to drag their elbow. Before long, these guys are going to be dragging the elbow like you see in all the other classes, and it's just incredible to see not only that, the lap times, the way they're making huge. I mean, these things are super bikes. It's so impressive what they're doing.
To that point, here a year ago in the heat, when we were here in September for King of the Baggers, Kyle Wyman was on pole last year with a 2:15.6. You're looking right now at the lap times or in this first qualifying session, a 2:15.6 would barely have him on that front row. So the pace that's been gained, even on a hot racetrack, from just over 12 months, it just hasn't stopped.
And also, too, the competition, the riders, they're not only elevating themselves, they're putting pressure on the team to elevate to match the other brands' level, and it's just kind of elevated everyone. And you can go all the way down and look at the grid there. Troy, Tyler, James Rispoli, and Hayden Gillum, Kyle Wyman, Rocco. Bobby Fong was leading Superbike points at one point this season, and he's out there in King of the Bagger.
Yeah, he said on our preview show earlier this morning that is exclusively on MotoAmerica Live Plus that he was going to do the double duty again this weekend, Bobby Fong is, and he hasn't done every round of competition in King of the Baggers. That was the plan, but the team really did struggle early on in the season, needed to hit the reset button and pick the races that they come to. But this weekend, another one, as you now go back to the number 97 of Rocco Landers. Look at this lap time that he's being able to put together right now, being shown below the provisional pole time set by Troy Herfoss. Went red in sectors 1 and 2.
Yeah, he's on a good lap. You can see it in his riding too, the confidence that he has. And the third sector is going to pop up right out of there. Lost it, was a personal best, but lost a little bit still.
Still an improvement for his own lap time, but now being shown as not being below the provisional pole time. We'll see what he can do in sector 4. He just looks so much more comfortable on this bike than he did to start off the season.
Yeah, beginning of the season, he wasn't sliding the bike around, and you know, wasn't really moving around on corner entry like as we see him do a 2:14.8.
2:14.8 for Rocco Landers. That fourth sector, he was able to gain a ton of pace and put himself on the provisional pole position by over 0.4 of a second over Troy Herfoss, improving his time from the practice session this morning, and on top of that, setting a new lap record for Rocco Landers here at Circuit of the Americas, bettering the time that Kyle Wyman was able to put down earlier this season. So you now see Kyle Wyman being shown down in 6th place right now. He was off the pace this morning in practice as well. We'll see if he's able to pick up any pace.
No, stays in 6th, just kind of struggling a little bit with Kyle, though. Man, he's one of those guys who's a gamer. Even the weekends, which just hardly happens, he struggles in practice or qualifying. He always seems to find it when the race starts.
Troy Herfoss said that this morning, didn't he? He said, we've been playing chess all season, but eventually these gloves have to come off, and only 4 races remaining this season. And fans of MotoAmerica watching along, you can pick your favorite rider for a chance to win some money, available on your favorite sports books and daily fantasy sites like DraftKings and Underdog Fantasy. Just visit nxtbets.com/playma for exclusive sign-up bonuses for new players, but you can also receive some bonus cash available in all legal states. Just check nxtbets.com/playma to see where you can play. And if it's me this weekend, I think I'm going to put my money on Rocco Landers. I think it's time.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, and you'd probably get some pretty good odds on that. But I think Troy. I really hate to bet against Kyle Wyman on this bagger because he wins a lot, but I think I'm going to go Troy.
Michael Hill's down there on pit lane watching along with us. Who would you put your money on, Michael?
It's going to be a tough one. I think Rocco's got a good chance for pole position. As you said, his win, that first win is coming, but I don't know. Herfoss for me for the win and for the title. That's Herfoss for the win.
You think Herfoss for the title also?
Yeah, I reckon.
Wow.
I like just going out there, you know, because the odds are so big, and I don't bet a lot, so I'm thinking 50 cents, big long odds. I could be like on my way to making $1 million. That's how I work.
Go big or go home, as we now see Rocco Landers pulling into pit lane. Troy Herfoss, Tyler O'Hara, James Rispoli, Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis, Corey West, all of them already down there. Hayden Gillum and Kyle Wyman taking advantage of a clean racetrack.
Top 3 guys have quite a bit of a gap to the rest of the crew behind them, and we'll see now. A lot of guys are coming in now. Qualifying's winding down. Going to try to get a fresh new Dunlop on the bike and see if they can move up the grid.
See Max Flinders there on the number 88. Always a fan favorite. Max Flinders is privateer effort, family-run program, and they've also been able to enjoy the benefits of all of the development, and they've done it themselves as well in this Mission King of the Baggers category. So we watch Max just out there getting all of the lap time that he can, but you see all the bikes that are down there on pit lane, and with Michael down there, let's go down to Michael. What's going on in pit lane, Michael?
Right, well, what's going on is James Rispoli is just coming back out onto the circuit. There was a little bit of work going on down there. He's now coming back out. Tyler O'Hara, who we spoke to earlier on in Hooligans, he's just actually down here getting, it was actually under umbrella with, who is that? That's actually Jeremy McWilliams down here that has got a new job as Tyler O'Hara's umbrella boy. Do you know what? Let's go in and see if we can get a quick word with Jeremy. I've not had a chance to speak to him. Jeremy, I didn't recognise you there. I mean, you're looking very, very sophisticated, young man. How are you feeling?
Good, all good, yeah. Good, just here supporting the team. Started pretty well this morning, and, you know, these guys are on it, so there's a championship at stake, and I'll do what I can to help.
Obviously, blisteringly hot conditions here. You've got a lot of experience racing in the heat. It's 98 degrees right now. Got to ask you, what's more difficult, holding the umbrella, keeping the shade off Tyler, or putting your laps in on the Hooligan?
I'm actually holding it for myself. No, I mean, this is not so bad. We raced here in 110 last year, so it is what it is. And actually, you know, the races are relatively short, to be honest, which is a good thing in Texas, but you know, it's the same for everybody. Yeah, you lose a little bit of water, but we're used to it. We've been racing our whole life, so.
I've got to ask you one final question before I throw it back up for the climax of this session. Obviously, coming back out here just to do this one-off round, are we going to see you back out for any more races this year, or are we going to see you back here next year?
You need to ask Gary that one, but I'll see what I can do in the Super Hooligan, and I mean, I feel pretty good with that little bike. I've always enjoyed riding it. We had a really good race here last year, which ended in tears. But yeah, I want to make amends for that. I'm a little way back on the grid, you know, 5th at the minute. I think we can be, if we can fill the front row, then that would be awesome tomorrow. And then the podium.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy. And as I said, that's Jeremy McWilliams. Will he be back here next year, Jeremy? I don't know. But one rider that is here and is on a blisteringly quick lap as we get towards the end of this session is Hayden Gillam. Yes,
Hayden Gillam able on that last lap to move himself up onto the front row. A 2:15.0 for Hayden Gillam. It was a great lap, and it looks like, Roger, he is still looking to improve.
Yeah, it was a great lap for Hayden, and same on screen there, kind of slowing down a little bit, but I think he really needed that after he's kind of struggled a little bit this morning and struggled early on in that session. That's a great lap, and you know, just a couple tenths behind his teammate there, and quicker than he went last year.
Almost a full 1.5 seconds quicker than he was in practice this morning. So for Hayden, you knew with that #1 plate that he was going to come out swinging, but for him on that lap, that was great. We're hearing that there might be problems for Troy Herfoss, who's still being shown on pit lane. Michael?
Yeah, I was just about to get out of the way because Tyler O'Hara left, and it looked as though the two Indian riders were going to go out side by side, but Herfoss, for whatever reason, the bike didn't start. Herfoss has now got off the bike, has gone back under the canopy, and well, there's a little bit of a concern down here, but the bike hasn't started, and with only a few minutes left, that could be the end of his challenge. Well, certainly for today anyway.
Yeah, just over 4 minutes left in this session as see the team trying to get it going. Go back out to the racetrack and you see James Rispoli inside of the top 5, but after the incident that he had early on in this qualifying session, the incident that he had back at Mid-Ohio, Roger, to be able to just go out and keep turning the laps, how important is it for James?
It's huge because he's got to build a little bit of confidence back and just get some riding, and the only way to do that is go out there and get some laps and get a good feel for the track. I mean, everybody's going a little bit quicker. They made some changes from this morning, and the only way to get out there and see those changes are the right direction and try to learn from whatever happened in that first crash, that first little mistake. And you know, so far the weekend he was riding pretty good, so let's see if he can get back to it.
All right, so Troy Herfoss is on pit lane with the problem, battling for the championship against Kyle Wyman, who has not been able to get up to pace, still being shown down in 6th position. So a struggle weekend so far for Kyle Wyman, but Troy Herfoss now with his helmet off on pit lane, knowing he's not going to get back out there in this session. Things aren't looking up either.
No, I mean, this class is just, it's something different every race weekend. Yeah, it looks like Troy is done.
Yeah, certainly for this session, the team will have some time to work on it, though. Second qualifying session isn't until tomorrow morning, so they can take a good look at it overnight, diagnose the problem, get it all fixed and sorted as they go into contention tomorrow. 2 races this weekend for Mission King of the Baggers, 4 races remaining in the championship season. For Troy Herfoss, he needs that bike under power to be able to get some more points against Kyle Wyman.
Yeah, this is a huge weekend for them. They can't afford to lose any more points. Luckily for Troy, though, he's put a good lap in so far. He's sitting there on the front row, but you know he wants to get out there and get a couple more laps in.
See Hayden Gillam there with that #1 plate. Second right now on the board behind his teammate there, Rocco Landers, on that number 97. That was such a great lap for Rocco Landers.
Great lap, and Hayden Gillam is on a good lap now, and so is Rocco. Both those 2 Vance and Hine Harley guys are putting in a good lap as this session's winding down.
Under 2 minutes now in this session, so we're not going to get very many more laps, but for Hayden Gillam, he really wants to make right what went wrong back at Mid-Ohio, get himself back onto the pole position. He knows he's not going to be able to win another championship here, but he can still end the season on a high note.
Yeah, he's on a good lap. If he can finish off this last corner, last 2 corners good, he might knock his teammate off the provisional pole.
As he comes to the stripe, it is a 2:14.858 for Hayden Gillum. A big improvement for him, now down to 0.06 of a second behind his teammate Rocco Landers. But Rocco, for right now, still sits on that provisional pole. But they were able to cross the stripe, and they could take another lap. It doesn't look like, though, Hayden's going to.
Yeah, Hayden looks like he's done. Rocco, though, looks like he might try to squeeze another lap out.
The two teammates being out there on the racetrack together, able to see what each other is doing. James Rispoli improving his time on that last lap. That was a good lap for him at 2:15.7 for Rispoli. Still down in 5th, but still finding some pace picked up as well. As you see Kyle Wyman sitting in 6th. He has gone personal best through the first 2 sectors at 2:15.5 for Kyle Wyman, moving himself up, but only into 5th place.
Yeah, only one spot. He's got one more lap to try to get a good lap in.
Crossing the stripe with just a second on the board. The checkered flag now being shown, but Kyle Wyman, we'll see if he is thinking about another potentially good lap time as we watch Rocco Landers on his last lap of this qualifying session, our provisional pole sitter. Again, there will be another qualifying session tomorrow morning for all of these riders being shown as an improvement. Let's see if Rocco can keep it all together.
It's looking good right now as this track starts to get tight through this next left-hander. When he gets out of here, we're going to see that 3rd sector pop up down there on the bottom and see if he's still under.
No improvement there in sector number 3, but you can see on that graphic that he is still shown as below the pole time that he has already set. We'll see if he can better that time as well as the track record.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to go a little bit quicker there. You see him, only 2 corners to go from here. You see he's going to use all the racetrack there.
Tyler O'Hara on this last lap, he's also on an improving lap, as is Kyle Wyman after the 1st sector. We'll watch as Rocco Landers comes to the stripe. It is a 2:14.779 for Rocco Landers, our provisional pole sitter, improving his time, improving the track record. Here towards the end of the season, Rocco Landers has proven that if he can stay on this bike next year, he is certainly going to be a contender for this championship.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if Rocco can turn this qualifying into 2 good races this weekend and a challenge.
What a great qualifying session for Rocco Landers. I can't wait to see his reaction when he gets that helmet off. He enjoys all of the moments that he's afforded in any class that he's racing in. So it's going to be great to see that. As you see Tyler O'Hara still on an improving lap. He went personal best through the first 2 sectors. As he comes around the last turn, we'll see if he is able to improve his position. He's currently in 4th. He takes the checkered flag, and for Tyler O'Hara, he does improve it at 2:15.296.
Full day race coverage on MotoAmerica Live Plus is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
It's a great qualifying session. Take a look at the results. Rocco Landers, so impressive. His teammate Hayden Gillum right there behind him in 2nd by almost 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, those 2.
800, sorry.
Look at the gap they have there. Back to Troy Herfoss there in 3rd. Tyler O'Hara 4th. Kyle Wyman struggling a little bit in 5th. James Rispoli, Max Flinders, Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis, and Corey West.
Troy Herfoss was able to put up a great time, but with those problems at the end of this session, they have some work to do overnight. Some of the other teams have some work to do to close that gap up. We'll see tomorrow morning if they were able to do that. Let's take a look at the highlights from this qualifying session. We'll start off with 3rd place in Troy Herfoss.
Yeah, Troy led early on into this qualifier. Big improvement from this morning. Looking good. Came into pits, and we want to head back out, though. Bike didn't run, so we really don't know if Troy's got a little bit of time left in him, but most importantly, he needs to be in front of Kyle, and that's where he's at.
Take a look at 2nd. This is Hayden Gillum. So close there to his teammate, but just not enough, but still a great session.
Yeah, great session for him. Had to crash in Mid-Ohio, struggled this morning, but for him, I think that's the most important thing. Come here, have a really good session, put himself right there almost track record himself, but his teammate was just a little bit better.
And there is his teammate, Rocco Landers. It's a new lap record here at Circuit of the Americas. And Rocco Landers, on the heels of 4 podiums in a row, our provisional pole sitter with 1 qualifying session remaining here this weekend. What a great day of qualifying we had. That was the last qualifying session for the day. Let's take a look at what we have for tomorrow. Our coverage will begin on MotoAmerica Live Plus at 10:40 Eastern Time with Supersport qualifying number 2, followed by Steel Commander Superbike qualifying number 2. Mission King of the Baggers will be back out on track right around noon Eastern Time, followed by the challenge race. The top 6 from the 2 qualifying sessions will go out there for bragging rights and $5,000 on the line from Mission Foods. And then we get into racing after the lunchtime break. That will be at 1:15 local time. We'll start off the day of racing with Mission Super Hooligan, race number 1, followed by Super Sport. And then the first of 3 Steel Commander Superbike races will be after that at 3 o'clock local time, followed by Mission King of the Baggers. And we'll end up the day of racing with Bellissimoto Twins Cup, race number 1. All right, let's get down to Michael Hill with Rocco Landers, our new pole sitter.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie, down here with a very, very hot Rocco Landers. Rocco, you were already on the provisional pole, and just to put it out of reach, you went even quicker on the final lap. New circuit record. Great job.
Yeah, not bad at all. It's definitely just shows the progress we've been making as a team, and yeah, it's a tough one. It's definitely very hot, especially doing 2 Class 2 this weekend. Builds character, but yeah, I feel like I maybe could have got a low 14, but unfortunately I had a big mistake there a couple times on that real heater I had, but whatever. Not bad to be on provisional pole. It's my first provisional pole on the bagger, and my team absolutely crushed it, so thank you guys.
Thanks, Rocco and Jamie. Great session, and for sure he's going to be in the mix tomorrow.
Even at 19 years old, Rocco Landers saying that one was a tough one. It is hot out there, Roger.
Yeah, it's hot, and it's going to be important not only for Rocco, but all the riders tonight to try to replace all those electrolytes and all the fluid that they lost today and get ready to go racing.
One of the things I heard there from Rocco was the thanks to the team. He used the word team a couple of times.
And they're important. The crew put in a lot of work, too. Those mechanics are out there on pit lane. It's hot for them as well.
After 5 qualifying sessions here today, that wraps up our coverage on MotoAmerica Live Plus. If you watched along with us on YouTube, again, make sure you go overnight and set up your account so you can watch with us all day long tomorrow for all the qualifying sessions and races live and in their entirety. Thanks for following along with us today. We will see you tomorrow.